And welcome to Fantasy Football Today, your Halloween edition. I am the worst costume ever, Ace Ventura. It is terrible, but we're going to have fun with it because we bought it and we have nothing else to do. So Ace Ventura here with Dave Richard and Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers?
RELAX.
I'm trying to RELAX, but I got some fantasy games that are in the balance here on this Sunday night. Welcome to the show, everybody. We're going to talk about our big fantasy winners and our big fantasy losers tonight.
God. Her.
Exactly. And Dave also challenged me to throw out Jim Carrey quotes, just none from Ace Ventura.
Right. I think that would have been funnier.
Okay, I can do that from now on. Heath wanted to start the show. But let's do a little preview of what's coming on the show today. We're going to talk about Calvin Ridley and that situation. Very unfortunate. Hope everything's okay with him. I'm glad to see that he's taking the time to get right mentally, and I'm sure everybody supports Calvin Ridley. We will, of course, go over the big injuries. Jameis Winston leaving with a knee injury. Is it going to be Taysom Hill time? He was really good as a starter last year. James Robinson left with an injury in the first half, so we'll get into that. Some of the worst performances, like the Washington offense, the Chargers offense. What do we make of that? And rookie running backs doing their thing, like Elijah Mitchell. I guess not as much Khalil Herbert today, but yeah, everything you need to know. But Heath said we need to start out with the stupidest moves we made this week. So Heath, take it away.
I don't even know if you guys made any. I think I can cover the three of us.
Okay.
I got some.
I hedged because I drafted a lot of Dak Prescott, and I still have him locked in as a starter in two different leagues, one of which Dave is the commissioner and has stupid waiver wire settings and wouldn't allow me to pick up Cooper Rush after Dak was ruled out because everybody's on waivers always. It's not American.
Which league is that? The auction league?
Auction league, yes. I wanted to drop one of my bye week players and pick up Cooper Rush, which I should be able to, and I can't.
Well, the stupidest move you made this week was really Dave's stupid move as a commissioner.
No, that's just number one.
Okay.
Number two, and I don't know who you are. I'm not going to go back and find the tweet because it makes me a little bit nauseous just thinking about it. I told someone to sit Michael Pittman this morning. Now, in fairness, he also had Brandon Cooks and Cole Beasley, and they both scored 20 fantasy points, I think. But
right.
Michael Pittman scored 30. So
that's okay. Come on, that's all right.
And then my undefeated podcast league team is going to lose this week because I benched Tyler Lockett for David Johnson.
See, I don't think that's a stupid move at all. I don't think that's stupid. I don't know that I made anything.
You know what, Adam? It feels stupid. It feels really stupid.
Okay. Is that something? Is that a thing?
No, it's just how I feel.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the best from Sunday, the biggest winner. Dave, who's the biggest fantasy winner from week 8?
The biggest fantasy winner from week 8? I don't know if Pat Freiermuth is the biggest fantasy winner, but I love the fact that he had 7 targets again and caught 4 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown. And then on a week where a lot of tight ends absolutely were miserable and a drain on fantasy rosters, here's somebody that stepped up and looks like he's going to be a significant part of the Steelers offense moving forward.
Brutal week for tight end. In non-PPR, Freiermuth is number 1, tied with Brevin Jordan. So a couple of rookies there, but yeah, really bad week for tight end.
2 rookie tight ends at the top of the list and neither one named Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, in PPR, it's Hawkinson by a mile. He had 10 catches for 89 yards. So he had a legitimately good game. Goddard was pretty good, dude. 6 for 72, but yeah, disappointing game. Okay, from many tight ends. Heath, who's the biggest winner in week 8?
It's Michael. I mean, it's the Jets, really. Jets fans, Jets coaches, Jets players. They finally, after all these years, found their franchise quarterback. Mike White becoming the first quarterback to throw for 400 yards in his first start since Cam Newton. Quite obviously, this offense got moving because they got the ball to their best current offensive player, and that's Michael Carter. He was absolutely awesome against a very tough run defense that averaged 5.1 yards per carry. Again, led the team in targets with 14 targets, caught 9 of them for 95 yards, And the best part is Mike White played so well that this whole silly little Joe Flacco thing that they just burned a draft pick for just lit it on fire. Now they're going to start Mike White again this week. So Michael Carter's going to get a bunch of targets again.
And Ty Johnson too. I mean, Ty Johnson had, what did he have? 6 catches, 5 catches.
Dave started him against me in the tankathon, and I started Mike White.
I'm gonna win the tankathon matchup because of that. Thanks a lot.
If you're really a touchdown pass, and I was all upset, and I thought it was Ty Johnson who Dave had, and I was excited.
Yeah. 71 yards and a touchdown receiving for Ty Johnson. If you really wanted to tank, you would have started the Bengals defense. I take full responsibility for that.
No, wait. I need to go back to this because I almost tweeted it, and I thought there's people on Twitter who maybe don't get what we do. When this whole bonanza thing was going on, you wanted to make it very clear, I am not a sorcerer.
Yeah.
I don't have this type of power.
Right.
And so now 4 weeks in a row, you have disagreed with me about a defense.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, I've been right. And your answer to that is, well, I must be a sorcerer. It can't be that Heath was right on the defenses.
No, that's true, actually. But here's the thing. It's not just that. It's not just that I disagree with you. It's also Dave and Jamie happen to disagree with you very much on all of those. Like they were so high or so low on a DST a particular week. And
in normal circumstances, I feel like you would be doing some sort of Azer stat research to discern what was the thing the 4 defenses all had in common.
I don't know. Do you?
You haven't done the research yet.
I just don't understand how like the Bengals have a really good defense and they're playing the Jets. And I just don't, how did you do? And you know what? They gave up 500 plus yards and they still walked away with a decent DST performance. All right. Anyway, biggest losers. Heath, give me the biggest loser in week 8. Yeah, God.
That was a good one. I think it has to be Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
Not just sharing passing down work with JD McKissick, but apparently he's in a committee in the running game and on the shorter end. I don't know. Like the only thing that makes any sense to me, and we've gotten a lot, this is all speculation, so throw it away if you want to, but we've gotten a lot better. They talk about how they know when to rest guys in practice because of all the biometric and all the medical information they have now. It seems like they just don't feel like Antonio Gibson can play a full football game with his current injury.
He's been under 45% of the snaps 3 straight weeks, and this week was a season low, 31%.
He had 8 carries for 34 yards and 3 catches for 20 yards, and Jarrett Patterson had 11 carries for 46 yards. McKissick had 8 catches. It's no surprise that McKissick had more catches than Gibson. Gibson with 3 actually is one of the highest marks of his career, of his season, but only 8 carries to 11 for Patterson. So
I'm not sure right now what the big difference between Gibson and Devin Singletary is, except maybe Gibson might get a goal line carry.
Right. Well, or Gibson could get it going again later on this year. I think the only way that Singletary really becomes somebody that you'd feel comfortable starting is if Zach Moss were to go away.
Right. I know I'm going to probably forget this. It's not the biggest news of the day, but if you saw Zach Moss, bad fantasy game, basically. He did have a decent role in the passing game. He was once again the 4th quarter guy. Yep. So that's still something, if you need a bye week replacement or something like that, you could look to.
Played all 3 of their snaps from 10 yards or closer. That could be part of the problem, is that Buffalo only had 3 snaps from 10 yards or closer.
Right.
11 of the 14 snaps on 3rd and 4th downs for Buffalo, 64% of the snaps overall. So another week where he's getting the work that we want and almost expect, but the numbers just don't match up. The fantasy production doesn't match up.
All right. Biggest loser for you, Dave?
Let's go with Kenneth Gainwell, who was Mr. Top Waiver claim this week, the guy that we thought would, well, at the very least, he'd play in passing downs for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't think he played in the first quarter at all. I think he barely played in the first half. And this was a game where you saw Boston Scott get a couple of touchdowns. Jordan Howard got a couple of touchdowns. And you didn't really see Kenneth Gainwell play until the 4th quarter. He had 14 snaps out of 20, I believe he had, in the 4th quarter. So 20 snaps in the game, 14 of them came, 4th quarter blowout. Totally not what we were expecting. Total disappointment, and someone that we're probably going to cut off of our rosters as soon as we can.
Boston Scott is 39% rostered. Jordan Howard is 2% rostered. They both had 12 carries, right around 60 yards, 2 touchdowns. They did it against A very, very favorable matchup. All 4 of those rushing touchdowns were from 4 yards out or closer. It was such an unlucky game for Jalen Hurts, who had his first game with fewer than 20 fantasy points. I think he had 10 fantasy points, but really just weird. They just did not use Gainwell at all. Very strange. And he's definitely a big loser. And for Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, it was like, somebody stop me. Right? Okay. No, nothing. No. Okay.
It's going to be harder for everybody listening to really appreciate this. Like Adam's it looks like he's got a dead turkey on his head.
This is the wig it came with.
The Hawaiian Ace Ventura shirt on with a white tee.
Just plain white tee. So the thing is, the costume's actually pretty good, but the pants and the belt really hold it together. And since this is only chest up, it just doesn't really work.
Do you know how happy I was last night when I thought, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers wore dark jeans or light jeans when he showed up to training camp. And I went and looked online and saw that he wore gym shorts and flip-flops. Like, this is the greatest costume ever.
Yeah, we really took advantage of the Halloween. We all wore shorts today. Some of us under our onesies.
What did you wear?
I was a gingerbread man. I have a gingerbread man onesie that I slipped into.
Okay. By the way, somebody stopped me. Is from The Mask. I'm pretty sure that would be The Mask. So I'm doing all right. Okay. Calvin Ridley stepping away from football to focus on his mental well-being. Keep him on your roster for now. And hold on. I hate, it's insensitive. Yeah. It's insensitive to just turn it to fantasy football. I already said at the top of the show, I wish him well. I'm glad that he's doing this. I'm sure throughout the course of football history, there have been plenty of players who have wanted to step away and couldn't. So I'm glad that we have a society where you can do this now. That being said, it is fantasy. So I always have to talk, you need to know this information. So I'll just say, I won't even put you guys on the spot. Keep them on your roster.
There's one other thing to say, and that is, first of all, good for him for doing it. I agree with you, Adam. Second of all, Lane Johnson stepped away for mental health issues as well. I believe he was gone for 3 weeks. So maybe this is a case where Calvin gets the help that he needs. He feels better about himself. He finds himself in a good place, and he's back helping Atlanta in the very near future. But for now, keep him on your roster as best as you can. And who knows what'll happen. Maybe there's some sort of way that the Falcons are going to put him on IR.
Right.
Maybe they're allowed to designate him on IR, and then he's out for 3 weeks. And if you've got IR spots, you could stash him on there, and that'll help you out a little bit. But I'm hoping Calvin bounces back from it and that we see him again this year.
Derrick Henry got beat up. He left the game very briefly, but he had, I think, 27 carries, something like that. And this was only the 3rd game of his career first of all, he's had more than 25 carries now 17 times in his career. Only the 3rd time he's had fewer than 100 yards. So off day for Derrick Henry, but he wasn't completely healthy. And I think he should probably be able to play next week, but they're going to probably take it easy on him in practice.
He's got the Rams.
Yeah. Gronkowski left with back spasms. They're on a bye. Hopefully he's back after that. Disappointing day for him. Mm-hmm. Jameis left with the knee injury. So they get Atlanta next week, at Tennessee, at Philadelphia. It's a serious knee injury for him. Taysom Hill was out again with the concussion. If Taysom Hill's the quarterback, and Trevor Siemian played okay, but if Taysom Hill's the quarterback, could this be the guy that joins the group of must-start quarterbacks? Because he was pretty damn good for fantasy last year in his 4 starts.
I would expect him to basically be what Jalen Hurts has been if he's the quarterback. Top 8 fantasy quarterback for as long as he starts.
And what if his opportunity comes right in line with Michael Thomas coming back? And I remember how those two connected last year.
Right.
And even if not, Traquan Smith had a much better game. I mean, it looked like last week may have just been a shake the rust off game. Traquan looked a lot better today.
He did.
Okay, James Robinson left with an injury in the first half. Your interest level in Carlos Hyde would be what?
If I need a running back who should lead a team in carries, I think this would be someone I'd look at, but I don't feel good about him. He played 74% of the snaps after James Robinson got hurt in the first quarter, including 9 of 15 on 3rd and 4th downs.
They play Buffalo next week.
Yeah, look, this is not a ringing endorsement for Carlos Hyde of him coming to save your fantasy season.
Right.
I'd much rather add Boston Scott.
Sure.
Would you rather
Unless
have Jordan Howard?
Probably.
what happens if Robinson, heaven forbid, is out for the year?
Yeah, we'll
Does
reassess.
that change your tune?
We'll reassess. Let's not even think about
Okay.
that. T.Y. Hilton left. He was evaluated for a concussion in the fourth quarter.
Poor guy.
Yeah. And Sam Darnold left in the fourth quarter with a concussion. So,
Poor guy.
yeah, it's pretty bad for the Panthers, and we'll see if they make a move. Maybe Deshaun Watson. We shall see. November 2nd, a couple days from now. That is the trade deadline. That's Tuesday if you're listening on Monday. So trade deadline is tomorrow. Some spooky, scary performances. Should I do the violent scream again?
I think you should do a scream.
Only this. Oh, I hit the microphone. You know that scene in Ace Ventura where he's like, this is double pane soundproof glass. Okay. All right. Thanks.
When are you gonna stand up, turn around, and have Mr. Butt Cheeks talk to the audience?
Do you have a mint? So we already talked about the Washington offense with Antonio Gibson. Another bad game, though, for McLaurin. I mean, that is 5 games for Terry McLaurin with 62 or fewer yards and no touchdowns and 4 or fewer catches. Still a must start.
Number 2 receiver.
He's a must start. Yeah.
All right. And this is now for Justin Herbert, another spooky, scary performance. Justin Herbert with his 4th game out of 7 with 16 or fewer fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. That's pretty shocking. What do you make of that, Dave?
The scarier thing is that this is his 2nd straight game where we can't pin it on receivers making mistakes or his team having penalties that cost him some numbers. This is 2nd straight game where very smart defenses are showing how to limit him and how to limit this offense.
Right. It was Baltimore 2 weeks ago before the bye, and it was New England. They have Philadelphia.
It's especially frustrating that they didn't come out of the bye with anything really special.
Keith, are you concerned? Are you concerned about Mike Williams? He was a dud again.
That was going to be one of my believe it or nots, that the early season Mike Williams was a mirage. And I'm concerned about that. Yeah. I mean, we had these guys, Mike Williams, Deebo Samuel, really even Cooper Kupp. He was on a higher level, but made this huge leap in the first 5 or 6 weeks. We shouldn't have expected all of them to keep it up all year. And it kind of looks like Cooper Kupp and Deebo are going to keep it up. So I'm a little bit concerned that Williams is more of a boom bust number 3 or number 2 than we thought.
How do you feel about the Chargers schedule after this week? They've got Philadelphia in Philly, Minnesota at home, Pittsburgh at home, and then at Denver. And when they're playing at Denver, the Broncos are going to be coming off of a bye. I don't think this is and then Cincinnati after that, if the Cincinnati defense is better than what we saw today against the Jets.
It's not a layup. I mean, it's not a cupcake.
No, none of it is.
But
this could turn really ugly for the Chargers.
Yeah, and he might get Mike Williams might get Darius Slay next week. And if you're curious, Darius Slay did not shadow TJ Hawkinson today. I know there was some, thought that might happen. I think I always like to see Mike Williams struggling, right? I'd be more worried if Justin Herbert had a great game and Mike Williams didn't do anything, because it seems like for the most part, he's tied to Justin Herbert's production. Mm-hmm. And, as long as Herbert can bounce back, I think that's probably going to be a good thing for Williams. Okay. You agree with that premise?
It sure won't hurt.
Yeah. Agree with that. All right. Fantasy Football Today is now on Amazon Alexa Flash Briefings. You can ask Alexa to add CBS Sports Fantasy Football Today to your Alexa Flash Briefing. Time for more winners and losers here. The winners for Dave are Eli Mitchell, T. Higgins, and Pat Freiermuth, who we already talked about. But Mitchell, this is his third 100-yard game in 5 starts. 18 carries, 137 yards, and a touchdown, but no catches. So how much faith do you have in Eli Mitchell going forward, Dave?
He's a must-start fantasy running back moving forward. It is what it is. He's good. He's getting 2/3 of the snaps for the 49ers. They're not messing around by putting Trey Sermon in for a lot of work. JaMychal Hasty is the passing downs guy. They've got Arizona, then the Rams, and then Jacksonville after that. It's not going to be easy, but I think that we could see Elijah Mitchell continue to get the work. I think everybody should be very comfortable starting him and considering him a startable fantasy running back till the season's over.
T. Higgins, why was he a winner? 4 catches, 97 yards on 6 targets. He also came a yard short of a touchdown.
Yes, he did. He did something in this game that he didn't do in each of the prior 2 games, and maybe even longer than that. He was able to separate from coverage. Touchdown, Adam Thielen. I think that we could see T. Higgins continue to. He's earning the trust now of Joe Burrow in a major way. Last week, 15 targets. This week, a bunch of downfield throws against the Jets. I'm a little more encouraged to start T. Higgins than I was before this game and before last game as well.
All right. And Heath, your winners are Tyler Lockett and the Jets. You already talked about the Jets, but Tyler Lockett, what a ridiculous game. He had a touchdown reversed, actually. It was spotted down at the half-yard line, but 12 catches, 142 yards, 13 targets at Jacksonville after 5 straight games with fewer than 60 yards and no touchdowns. And they go into the bye. Hopefully they get Russell Wilson back, but your thoughts on Lockett?
You know what the best thing was? Tyler Lockett was started in 61% of leagues today.
That's wildly high. I can't believe that.
Like, I did start him, I think, 2 or 3 leagues because of what I said earlier in the week. I wasn't going to drop Tyler Lockett. And so if I didn't have somebody on my bench that I could drop for another receiver, then I was just going to start Tyler Lockett. And so I think some people might have been in that situation. They didn't have anybody they wanted to drop for someone to start over him. But it was nice to see that he's still able to play wide receiver at a high level and that Geno Smith knows that he exists. And it gives me a little more optimism that when Russ comes back, Lockett can just go back to being the boom bust number 2 wide receiver we all hate and love every other week.
Okay. And yes, really hoping, cross our fingers that Russell Wilson comes back. We will come back and talk to you about the losers. I'm not going to say it like Ace Ventura anymore. It's annoying me, so I can't imagine how it's going for you. When we come back, we will talk about Matt Ryan. He's a loser.
Oh, yeah.
He's a loser. David Johnson, 3 touches. He's a loser. Emmanuel
Will
Sanders.
you hear how many snaps he played?
Oh, I'm not looking forward to that. All right, we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Back with our Week 8 fantasy losers. Heath, you get to go first. You had Antonio Gibson. Gibson, by the way, he played today in a little place called Aspen. And David Johnson, Heath, is a loser for you. 2 carries, 1 catch against the Rams. He was started in 25% of leagues. He's 66% rostered.
Well, no wonder they didn't give Gibson the ball if he was in Aspen. The game was in Denver.
Yeah, it was the closest thing I could do.
I don't know what happened with David Johnson, really. Did you have a number you wanted to tell us about how many snaps he played, Dave? Because it seemed like 4 was my guess.
He played 19% of the snaps. It was a season low for him. Half of the Texans' 12 snaps on 3rd and 4th downs. So the passing situations that we had seen him kind of dominating in, that went away. Rex Burkhead played more of those snaps. Some of them they played together. And Burkhead was the lead guy in this Texans backfield, 48% of the snaps. So you probably think, okay, David Johnson was second. He wasn't even second. He was third. Scotty Phillips, 26% of the snaps. Season high for him, and coincidentally a season high for Rex Burkhead. Texans just flipped it on its head. They went with 2 other guys at running back that no one was talking about. And it did them so much good.
I think those snaps are blowouts related.
Yeah, those are garbage time stuff. I'm pretty sure, especially Burkhead. I think Johnson. Look, the final score was like a 16.
He played into the 4th quarter. He had some 4th quarter work.
He did. Yeah, he did play a little bit in the 4th quarter. I do think there's a little bit, Adam, of what you said. Everything just went wrong even more than normal early for the Texans. But I don't know what to make of it moving forward. I'm not going to project Scotty Phillips or Rex Burkhead to lead the Texans in running back snaps next week, and they do play a bad Dolphins run defense. So it's uncomfortable, but you probably just sit them on your bench and hope one of them separates himself. And then Emmanuel Sanders, I guess it was just a good reminder of what Emmanuel Sanders is. He's not a reliable borderline number 2 wide receiver. He's a boom bust number 3 that had boomed more than he'd busted so far this year, but he's going to have busts as well.
And Beasley, I think people might say, well, one game without Dawson Knox and look what Cole Beasley did. But I don't really buy that because it's not like Dawson Knox is getting double-digit targets. If you look at Beasley and his game log, and I'm just going to make sure I'm right about this, and you look at Josh Allen and his game log, it's basically been when Josh Allen has thrown the ball a lot, Cole Beasley's had a pretty good game. So there have been some, and I didn't really think Allen would have to throw that much today, but he did.
The thing is, I don't think the Bills have been very reliable in their number of pass attempts correlating with the type of game we expect. Like sometimes they win by 35 and Josh Allen still throws 40 passes.
That's true. So it might be hard to predict, but it is more or less true. Like going into today's game, Josh Allen had 3 games with more than 33 pass attempts, and Beasley in those games had 8, 11, and 7 catches. In the other 3 games where Allen had 33 or fewer, Beasley had 4, 2, and 1 catch. So it's been 100% tied to Josh Allen's pass. And how many did Allen throw today? He threw a lot today, right?
Allen threw, I was looking at another stat to talk about with Beasley, 42 passes for Josh Allen.
So
and 1 for Cole Beasley.
Right. Yeah, that's
Beasley
true. Incomplete. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I know we weren't really talking about that, but I don't know that the connection between Knox and Beasley, I'm not sure if that's true or not.
I don't think that's it. No.
Yeah, it's the pass attempts have been a bigger indicator.
My guess is that in the first half, Beasley had 2 catches. So obviously they went into halftime and said, all right, let's get Cole Beasley a little bit more involved. And it worked for them. In the third quarter, he had 8 targets. He caught 5 of them for 51 yards. And then the fourth quarter, I don't think he did a whole heck of a lot, but he was already very involved in the offense in the second half. So this is going to sound really simplistic and kind of dumb, but I'm good at saying dumb things. When Josh Allen needs to get going, he's looking for Cole Beasley. That's kind of his security blanket. And they may have come into the game with a different idea of what they wanted to do offensively. But Allen, I just think when he realizes, okay, we've got to get moving down the field, Beasley is who he goes to. And it kind of correlates with what you're saying, which is whenever Josh Allen needs to throw a decent amount, Beasley's involved. And this was a game that I would have told you Josh Allen may not have gotten to 33 pass attempts, but he definitely would have had some good numbers. And it turned out that he needed a lot more than 33 pass attempts. And Beasley was his guy.
It was kind of weird that Josh Allen finished with 32 points because this game was really tight going into the fourth quarter. They ended up winning 26-11. It was 10-3 going into the fourth quarter. Dolphins gave him a game, and then the Bills pulled away. Dave, you're losers. So someone in the chat has actually cursed us out, used a profanity because we told them to start Gainwell. We didn't realize we weren't, Gainwell wasn't a top 20 running back or anything like that. So
he was a flex. Yeah. He was a high-end flex, especially in PPR.
Everyone was wrong about Gainwell.
And I'm sorry. Look, it stinks. This happens plenty of times.
And he's one of your losers. You already talked about him, but safe to drop him, 80% rostered.
He's droppable.
Okay.
He's droppable for sure.
And Matt Ryan, 90% rostered, 41% started. I'm sure a lot of people like myself sat him after the Ridley news. And yeah, he only scored 7 points. Would you drop him or would you hold him?
I would certainly drop him. Next week they've got New Orleans, they've got the Cowboys after that, the Patriots after that. Maybe you'll feel good about starting Matt Ryan as a bye week replacement in week 12 against Jacksonville. Someone you could hold on to if Kyler Murray is your main quarterback or if Patrick Mahomes is your main quarterback, because they will be on bye that week. But as long as Ridley's out, I'll go back and look and see what the Panthers did to try and lock down this Falcons offense. But Pitts had a miserable game. Carolina got a good linebacker back in Shaq Thompson, and Stephon Gilmore played. And their pass rush was getting to Matt Ryan. So it was a lot different than what we thought may have ended up happening earlier in the week. And certainly when we ranked Ryan as a low-end number 1 fantasy quarterback.
I think, and I don't know, correlation does not always equal causation, but I do think if you look at the games that Shaq Thompson's played, that has been a completely different defense than the games.
Oh, yeah.
They were awesome early in the year when he was on fire. He missed some time and they went in the tank. He was back today and they were good again.
Yeah, I have a feeling the matchups are part of that, right? I mean, I know they faced like Dallas without, I don't know without him, but they had an easy schedule early. But yeah, he's really good. And they did get to Ryan, 3 sacks. It seemed like he was under pressure a lot today. And DeVonta Smith, man. I had to start him over Kadarius Toney. And if Toney doesn't play, I might lose that. 2.5 PPR points for DeVonta Smith. Hasn't had a touchdown since week 1. Dropped his first target on the opening drive. Dave, he was 62% started. Are we considering dropping DeVonta Smith?
I think he's a droppable player at this point. And I hate to say it because he's a talented player, but even in a game where Philadelphia's offense was humming, it's like the coaches realized, we can run the ball. We're good at it. Let's keep doing it. And maybe some of that has to do with playing against the Lions. But I'm not going to feel comfortable starting DeVonta Smith.
I know. I don't want to drop him. I mean, Hurts only threw 14.
You don't think you should drop him? All right. So then why is he on the fantasy team? Why is he on your
Because
team?
Jalen Hurts is going to throw twice as many passes as he did this week and more every week.
Yeah, but we've had games where that happens and Smith still doesn't do very well.
Because he's a rookie wide receiver and you don't want to drop Justin Jefferson for Peyton Barber.
Are you saying that DeVonta Smith for Boston Scott is going to be the new Justin Jefferson for Peyton Barber?
It could be.
They've got the Chargers next week. Do you see DeVonta Smith getting 13 PPR points against the Chargers?
No.
Well, if we dropped every player we didn't think was going to get 13 PPR points next week, we would not be rostering enough players.
Okay. Do you think he's going to have 3 games remaining this year with 13 or more PPR fantasy points? Okay. He's droppable. And I'm frustrated to say that because I really like him. And Heath, you were talking about your dumb moves in a league I really wanted to win. I started DeVonta Smith over Robert Woods.
No.
I
don't think I would have done that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like Woods had some huge. He had the rushing touchdown.
He had a couple of touchdowns, right? But he had
40 yards.
It feels like when you miss out on a Robert Woods big game, you're kind of kicking yourself over it because there aren't as many of those as there used to be.
Yeah. Well, Woods has scored, I want to say, at least 11 PPR. Now, 11 is not good, but he's had, I think, 11 or more PPR points in all but one game. So he rarely.
Would you mind if I ran down the next 4 games or the next 3 games for DeVonta Smith?
Yeah.
Chargers, at Denver, New Orleans.
No, that's not good.
It's not good.
I don't
know if it's particularly good for Jalen Hurts either.
I just think next week it's likely the Chargers are going to score a bunch of points against Philadelphia, and so Jalen Hurts is going to throw a bunch. I know they have a bad run defense, and I think early in the game that Philadelphia would rightly try to run the ball against them. But I would expect 35 plus attempts from Jalen Hurts next week, which probably means 8 to 10 targets for DeVonta Smith.
Which means
he hasn't
3
been that
catches for
good. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been that good with the targets. That's kind of the issue.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the problem.
I'm not dropping him yet. I just think there's too much potential. But
there is those final 5 games that they have against the Jets, the football team, the Giants, and the Cowboys.
Right.
The Eagles are in the playoff race. As long as you get those 5 games at the end of the season, until you get to 8 losses, you're in it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I got a segment called "Let's Get It Started" in here. That's a song. It's the Black Eyed Peas. It's a good song. You should look it up. And I'm going to give you a bunch of players and tell me if you think that week 8 was a springboard for their season. Are we getting it started with them in terms of rest of season value? Michael Carter, Taysom Hill, Justin Fields, 31% rostered, 27 fantasy points, the sickest run of the year, basically, a ridiculous touchdown run, and 103 rushing yards and a touchdown today. And I'm going to throw in Jamal Agnew in there because he's had three games in a row with 5 to 6 catches. He caught a touchdown today. Michael Carter, Taysom Hill, Justin Fields, Jamal Agnew. Let's get it started in here. Are these guys getting started on a very strong fantasy finish?
I think we can say yes to Carter. I wonder if even when Zach Wilson comes back, it'll be an edict from the coaching staff in New York to say, let's get this guy the football in space. Let's check it down a little bit more, Zach Wilson. Don't have big eyes downfield. Neutralize that pass rush a little bit. Use your running backs more in the passing game. Because that's the one thing that's really helped Michael Carter. It almost feels like it gets him into a rhythm a little bit more in the game. It's just being involved in the passing game. So I say yes. I think that this is absolutely a jumping off point for Michael Carter to be at least a middle of the pack number 2 fantasy running back.
100% cheering for Mike White to lead a victory over the Colts next week. 100% cheering for a quarterback controversy in New York in 3 weeks.
There will be no God. They are going back to Zach Wilson.
Like I want 300 yards and a win each of the next 2 weeks for Mike White.
Taysom
would be
Hill, Justin
something.
Fields. Who has a better chance of winning you your fantasy league?
Hill.
I mean, the problem with Taysom Hill is we don't know if he's coming back. You know, just because he didn't play this week because he's on the concussion list, it's not as easy to say, oh, well, he's fine now.
This was the second
Bring him back
consecutive
in.
week.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
and with a bye. So,
Right. So obviously,
long-term
the-
thing here.
potentially.
It has been.
So, could he be that guy? Yes. Would I take him over Justin Fields? I think I would. Because I really buy into what Taysom Hill did last year. And I can't remember exactly how he was in the preseason, but it really shouldn't matter anyway. The way that the Saints are playing, I think it benefits Taysom Hill.
You guys worried about Kamara? Because he's kind of sucked with Taysom Hill, as I recall.
He did. He only had a lot of targets in, I think, their last game together.
The game they lost at Philadelphia. Yeah.
Mhm.
It was not good for him at all. But really, he's running the ball like 20 times a game anyway. Had another 19 carries today. All right, Fields. Unfortunately for Fields, look, San Francisco's a good defense, so I guess I can't just use that argument. But his next 3 games are Pittsburgh, bye, Baltimore. I should say next 3 weeks for Fields. But encouraging stuff. He's starting to run the ball more. Rushing yards in his last 3 games, 43, 38, and 103. All right, some news and notes real quick. Justin Jackson left with a quad injury. Jalen Reagor left with an ankle injury. Damian Williams, knee. Kyle Pitts.
Khalil Herbert left for a little bit
Who?
on Sunday, too. Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, he did. Pretty briefly.
He came back, but Ryan Nall was the last running back standing on the Bears offense for a period of time.
Kyle Pitts had a bad dropped about a 20-yard pass, would have set up 1st and goal. Chris Boswell, everybody criticizing Tomlin for that. Chris Boswell, their kicker, got hurt on a fake, got crushed, and they could not kick the rest of the game. Los Angeles Chargers, they lost 2 cornerbacks in the game. I'm not sure if Samuel came back in, but Michael Davis.
I don't think he did. I think it was a concussion for Samuel.
Okay, so I think they lost 2 corners.
I'll double check. Maybe he did get cleared.
That's actually a pretty big deal for DeVonta Smith, potentially. Melvin Gordon fumbled for the first time in 207 carries, I think was the stat they gave on the broadcast. And that was a huge fumble. It gave the football team a chance to win the game. Late, I'm trying to watch this highlight here on this Minnesota game. Justin Jefferson just missing a big play. And if you look at the Saints box score, 5 New Orleans Saints pass catchers had 30 to 38 receiving yards. So that was weird. Very evenly distributed.
Spreading the wealth. Samuel did not come back. He was concussed and was ruled out for the Chargers.
Yeah, so he probably wanted to come back in the game, and the coaches were like, do not go in there. Woo! All right, to the games.
Remember when I said RELAX? You didn't.
That was fun. That was good. All right, I like that one. I support it. Jets 34, Cincinnati 31. Heath, what do you got?
Well, I think we need to stick with Michael Carter. Believe it or not, Michael Carter is the 2nd best rookie running back rest of the season.
Behind Najee. The other candidates would be Javonte Williams and why am I blanking?
Yeah, Trey Sermon.
Yeah, it can't be Trey Sermon.
That's it, right? Khalil Herbert.
Herbert could be pretty good. Are we missing somebody, Heath?
No.
Mitchell.
Well, there's
Elijah
Javonte
Mitchell.
Williams.
Oh, yeah, Derp. Yeah,
There's
Elijah.
Eli Mitchell. There's Chuba Hubbard. There's Khalil Herbert.
Oh, right, all these bums.
That came
I'm
out of the
gonna.
woodwork.
So
I'm going to say no. I don't believe it because Elijah Mitchell, I'm buying into.
Yeah, I'm also gonna not believe it.
I think I would believe it in PPR, and I'd take Mitchell in non-PPR. But like Mitchell doesn't catch the ball at all.
What happens when Zach Wilson comes back? Are the Jets going to do what I suggested they do and draw up more plays for Carter?
Well,
Or
I
are they
think
going to let
regardless,
Wilson play.
if Michael Carter is playing 70% of the snaps, he's going to be like they were still throwing the ball to their running backs a little bit before. It's just Tevin Coleman was getting a couple of targets and Ty Johnson was getting even more than Carter was.
Right. So what happens when Tevin Coleman gets healthy, Zach Wilson gets healthy?
I don't think they're going back to a bigger split away from Michael Carter after what he's done. That wouldn't make
I
any
would
sense.
hope not.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah, there's got to be something else from this game. So Burrow is Joe Burrow, superstar. He's scored 25 or more fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. Is he just fantasy elite right now?
He's up there for sure. Okay. I don't really know if there's anything else you could say about it.
Any interest in Tyler Boyd now, or would you have the guts to drop Tyler Boyd if you needed someone after a 5-catch, 69-yard, 1 touchdown game?
Yeah, I would, because we know that he's not going to do this every week. He tends to only show up in games where the Bengals are, frenetically competing or playing from behind. There haven't been a ton of those games this year where he's been there. In any other game where they're not frenetically playing from behind, he's been a non-factor. So, I mean, this isn't to say that Cincinnati is going to, have a bunch of cakewalks the rest of the year, but I can't imagine that he's going to be the biggest fantasy point getter in this passing game many more times the rest of this year. Not when Jamar Chase is around, not when T. Higgins has a chance to make some plays downfield or get 15 targets in a game. If I'm loaded at wide receiver and I need to make room for somebody off the waiver wire, Boyd is droppable. He's not as droppable as some of the other players that we're going to talk about, but he could be.
Would you drop Tyler Boyd for Jamison Crowder?
I don't know. That feels like a lateral move. Because Crowder, what did Crowder have? 9 targets and 8 catches and a 2-point conversion and like 10 yards per catch, something like that. He's just as likely to come up next week with 3 catches for 25 yards.
Okay. I'm going to put my headphones on because I'm having trouble with the earpiece here. So if I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer. Okay.
I knew that.
I can't hear you guys, but let's go to our next game, which is Philadelphia 44 and Detroit 6. Heath, believe it or not.
This one is a weird game for believe it or not. We already talked about Gainwell. We talked about DeVonta Smith. I don't know if there's anything to say about DeAndre Swift. It was a crappy game. Believe it or not, TJ Hawkinson is going to be better than Kyle Pitts in PPR rest of the season.
I don't want to believe it.
No way.
I don't want to believe it.
You don't believe that, Heath.
I asked you. I said, believe it or not.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. No, but it's really nice. It's really nice to see that Hawkinson's still capable of having these types of games.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not going to happen every week, but
I also think it was a reminder this week that Pitts is still capable of having those kinds of games.
Yeah, it was pretty surprising. Yeah. So does anybody believe that Hawkinson will be better than Pitts?
No,
I think in full PPR it's basically a coin flip, but I'd probably take Pitts.
Why? Would you have said that a day ago?
Well, I got maybe fooled a little bit by 2 incredible Kyle Pitts games of thinking, oh, he arrived. And now he's just going to be this guy.
But everybody has it. Yeah. All right. So are you closer to he arrived or he's going to be a tight end in this fantasy sense?
I am closer to he's TJ Hawkinson than he's Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce.
I don't know if I know what that means.
Well, I think Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce are part of the elite tier of tight end that Waller's still a part of, and Kittle might be when he gets back. I'm not sure that Pitts is.
Or Hawkinson.
No, I never.
But they're in that same group right behind them. And I would say that Pitts still has more upside than Hawkinson does.
Well, a day ago, nobody was taking Pitts over Hawkinson. This isn't a criticism. I'm just saying perception-wise. Yesterday,
right.
Everybody was taking Pitts over Hawkinson.
And 15 days ago, everyone was taking Hawkinson over Pitts.
Yeah. So it is frustrating. I kind of thought that Ridley absence would benefit Pitts because it certainly did against the Jets, but it didn't today.
It's not really fair. It did against the Jets, and that's the Jets. It's not really fair against an average NFL defense to expect a rookie with 5 games to be able to succeed when Russell Gage is the second best option in the passing game.
Not today. Russell Gage didn't have a target. Tajay Sharp. And okay, Dallas Goedert. Let's factor him into this equation too. He had 7 targets, and Jalen Hurts threw 14 passes. This was the first game with more than 5 targets, I think, for Goddard. Maybe more than 6. I don't know. But it was season high. So, I mean, he's obviously a must start, right?
He's a must start. I like his matchup next week against the Chargers. It should be better for him than it will be for the wide receivers. And is it wrong to say that he could be the number 1 target for Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia and not DeVonta Smith and not
It could be
Jalen Reagor, provided that Rager's healthy, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think they really like Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, could be. Can we stop with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Raymond? Can we just stop?
Oh my God. I had to double check to see if Khalif Raymond even played a lot this week. He did. But 1 measly target.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Adam made the point that Darius Slay was not on Dallas Goedert. Was he on Khalif Raymond a lot?
I doubt it.
He
guarded somebody.
Yeah, I think he was in zone and probably stayed at left cornerback. I don't think does Raymond play out of the slot?
Well,
he does.
Amon-Ra St. Brown plays out of the slot a lot, doesn't he?
He's been moving around, but I think he's been more slot dominant than
I really don't think
Raymond.
I don't think he followed him. I'm wondering if they just ended up in the same place a lot. I don't think he said, I'm going to follow Khalif Raymond.
Maybe. I don't know.
In week 8, Darius Slay played outside almost exclusively, 3 snaps as a box, like inside the box. So he didn't really go in the slot at all. All 43 of the outside snaps were at left corner. So he didn't follow anybody.
Well, where did Raymond line up today?
Pro Football Focus.
Where did Khalif Raymond line up?
Today, where did Khalif Raymond line up?
Yeah.
If you give me a second, I'll tell you.
I could also sing the song Line Up, which was in Ace Ventura. Very underrated Aerosmith song. All right, Dave's going to tell us as he looks this up.
I got it.
Yeah, all right. What do you got?
You want an hour or you want to say something? And then
go ahead.
15 of 50 snaps in the slot for Khalif Raymond.
But you don't know left or right?
I mean, you really makes it more on the right side than the left side. 4 in the left slot.
No. Outside. Was he lined up across from Darius Slay?
I don't know how many times he was lined up across from Darius Slay. Hold on. Wait, we can figure it out. Because we know that Darius Slay played left cornerback all game long. No, if we know that Darius Slay played left corner, that means that the guy who played at right wide receiver saw him the most. Raymond was there for 15 snaps.
Okay. Carolina 19, Atlanta 13.
That might be the most we talk about Khalif Raymond the rest of the year.
I hope so. It feels like we just talked about this game, but Carolina 19, Atlanta 13.
We're all big dummies for dropping Mike Davis, and he needs to be picked back up.
I'm not going to believe that because he's still rostered in 86% of leagues.
Okay. So only 14% of us are big dummies.
I pick him.
He had a monster game though.
He had more touch. He had more. He had more carries, and Mike Davis is
as
better
many carries as
player.
Cordero,
and more targets
by 1.
Same catches, right? Same amount of catches.
Same amount of catches. He was involved more. I wonder if he was involved more because of Ridley not being there.
I think that's pretty reasonable. So for Mike Davis, it was 9 carries, 44 yards, and 5 catches for 22 yards. I don't know if you saw the update on Mike Davis. I saw it on Saturday, I believe. I had not seen this quote. Let me go see if I can find it. But they basically were saying that they need to get him more involved. Okay.
Sure. So while you look for that,
I have it.
That was it?
No.
He played 64% of the snaps. So a little uptick from last week.
Smith hinted that several of Atlanta's rushes were audibles from called pass plays, which favored Patterson being in the backfield rather than Davis. There was also a point in the game where Davis appeared to limp off the field, but he returned. This is from week 7. He returned shortly thereafter, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they said that they were going to get him more work. And the reduced volume during week 7 was largely a product of the team calling fewer run plays. So if you see Mike Davis, you can get him. But it's not, it's not like he did so well. You know, he had 11 PPR fantasy points. That is basically where he lives almost every week. He has had 11 to 14 PPR fantasy points in 6 of 7 games so far. And also in this game, DJ Moore.
I thought this would be a big game for him.
He can't have a big game if his quarterbacks are throwing for 150 yards.
Or 129 yards.
Well,
Don't
PJ
even
Walker
give him credit for 150.
PJ Walker did something. I don't know how much he threw for.
He had 1 incomplete pass.
Okay, then 0. Right. This is what I was trying to say. It's like I love DJ Moore. I wasn't trying to rip the guy, but I'm worried about him fulfilling his potential because this offense is so bad right now.
I was thinking about calling him a loser because of just how things have been going for him. But I believe in the talent still. I think he's a good talent, just stuck in a bad place.
You're going to start him next week.
Yeah, you are going to start him.
So,
okay, Los Angeles 38 and Houston 22. Heath, what should I believe? Oh, Heath left. Okay, we'll get Heath back.
You want to believe it or not?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Tyler Higbee is droppable.
Believe it.
I would believe it too, because they've tried so hard to get him in the end zone, and this is the easiest matchup you could come up with for a tight end, and Bupkis.
Heath, you heard the end of that. What do you think Dave's believe it or not was?
Tyler Higbee is droppable.
Yeah, damn straight it was.
And do you believe it or not?
It could have been tight end versus defense is not helpful. But I don't know if I would believe that either. Yeah, I think Tyler Higbee is droppable for sure. It's just he's not a spite drop. You've got to have a different tight end that you think might do better this week, and there probably aren't going to be more than one.
Well, what about Pat Freiermuth?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Freiermuth.
I think I would too.
It's tough to turn away, though. Higbee is among the NFL leaders in red zone, green zone targets on arguably the best offense in football. So it's not a huge endorsement for him, but I just want to point that out. I mean, he's getting opportunities he hasn't cashed in. Matthew Stafford is on fire. 30 or more fantasy points in 5 games. I can't believe how good he is right this year. I mean, I just didn't see this happening quite like this. Anything else here, guys? Yeah, Robert Woods, you want to talk about him? 35 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets, had a rushing touchdown as well.
Probably a sell high.
What?
Probably a sell high.
You think so?
You could try. I just don't know if anybody's going to buy it. I like that he had 9 targets. I think that part's good, but I just don't know if anybody's going to fall over themselves to trade for Robert Woods.
Who would you rather have rest of season, Finkel or Einhorn? Also, Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks?
Cooks.
I'm so tempted to say Cooks. You've got Tyrod Taylor coming back.
Yeah.
That's going to be an upgrade in the quality of target. He could get overloaded with targets like Woods was today. Here's a game where Woods got a ton of targets and he didn't get a ton of catches. How often is he going to have 9 targets moving forward? They're going to be close in the trade chart. Maybe Woods ends up like a point ahead of Cooks, but they're going to be close.
Okay. Buffalo 26, Miami 11.
Believe it or not, you should just ignore this game and start Jalen Waddle next week.
Dave hears the believe it or not. Dave goes to the schedule. Dave sees that Miami's taking on Houston at home. Dave is excited to start Jalen Waddle next week.
12 targets today, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Just 4 targets,
the
4
Bills.
catches.
4 catches for 29 yards on 12 targets. On one hand, yes, it's the Bills. On the other hand, come on, Jalen Waddle, do something with your targets.
Catch at least half of them for crying out loud.
It's the yards.
We don't like we should. I just don't think, unless you guys have already seen all 12 targets. I don't know how many of those were even catchable. So give the guy a break. He's a rookie wide receiver. He had a bad game against the Bills.
I'm talking about the whole season. I mean, his yards per target is very low, isn't it?
Yes,
his yards per target
route
is low. Contextually, based on the types of targets he's got, I'm not sure how low it is.
Okay, but he doesn't do a ton with his targets. But he's
well, unless you count scoring touchdowns.
He's going to be a pretty safe PPR floor guy. But do you really view him as a must start? I'm not talking about Houston. You're going to start him against Houston, but you view him as a must start on a weekly basis?
If you have 3 wide receivers and he's not playing a defense like the Bills, then I think he's a start in PPR every week.
Okay. DeVonta Parker. Oh, I forgot to put his stats in. Let me go get those because
he's been good.
Yeah, he's been targeted. I mean, 7 or more targets in every game. And he's only played 5 games and he's pretty available. So you could do worse. Let's see. Sorry, I should have this. DeVonta Parker had 8 for 85 on 11 targets. Wow.
definitely started David Johnson over him in a league as well.
At least
got
not tanking it, right?
No.
His ADOT is almost twice that of Jalen Waddle's. Waddle's ADOT is 6.3. DeVonta Parker's is 11.9. Yards after catch per reception, that's actually in Waddle's favor at 4.38 yards to 3.04 for DeVonta Parker. Explosive catches, they are tied with 6. Keep in mind that Waddle has 70 targets this year. DeVonta Parker has 43.
I know it doesn't really matter because he's going to be a must start. He's going to be a stud. It's just a matter of like how studly. At what point are we going to no longer consider Stephon Diggs, say, a top 5 wide receiver?
Now.
Okay, top 10?
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Debo or Diggs rest of season?
I think we're at that point where we can look at Debo and say, all right, it's for real. He set some kind of record for, I think it was the most receiving yards for a 49ers wide receiver through the first 7 games. When you think about the one specific wide receiver in 49ers history, that's incredible.
This is a funny comment, by the way. Did Adam cut his hair? This is the most uncomfortable wig ever. I am just struggling right now. You really, it comes down to it. I'm asking you right now, Diggs or Debo rest of season. You're really taking Debo? And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not taking Debo because they could turn to Trey Lance, and that I don't think would be good.
Here's if I really thought that Diggs might be the guy that he was last year, then I think I would not. But there was always a risk that last year was career year Stephon Diggs, and he was going to go back to being before career year Stephon Diggs in some regards. And he has seen his yards per game go back to right about where it was in 2019. He's seen his catches per game come back to the range that it was before last year. I just think they have enough weapons now. His volume's not quite the same, and he's not getting the same elite efficiency.
But his volume was really good. And this was a season low in targets, I think, 7. He was averaging about 10 targets per game before this game.
And what was Debo Samuel averaging in targets?
Not sure.
Well, he's got more on the year than Diggs does.
He has more targets?
Yes.
With a bye?
Debo has 72. Stephon Diggs has 66. And he's played 1 fewer game.
No, they both had a bye.
Did they both? I know the Niners did. Yeah, Buffalo did. By NATO. You're right.
All right, Pittsburgh 15, Cleveland 10.
Believe it or not, Chase Claypool is a boom bust flex.
Believe it.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty pissed off about this one. I'm losing.
I think what's happened, and it kind of makes sense. The Juju targets, those aren't the type of routes that Chase Claypool generally runs. And so that's when we've seen the Freiermuth increase in the offense. He's taking, that's what Tom Spencer said on FFT this morning. He said that Juju had that trust of Ben Roethlisberger, and now Roethlisberger is developing that same trust with Freiermuth. So I think Claypool will have some good games, but you can't feel like, I think he's kind of in the Tyler Lockett conversation. And actually, that's one of the guys I think I had Lockett ahead of this week. But you just don't know what you're getting each week.
Would you rather have Claypool or Waddle?
Waddle.
Oh, man. Oh, and non-PPR, that's an easy one. I'll take Claypool. Full PPR. Yeah, I think I might still take Claypool.
Waddle's probably been better in non-PPR as well this year, right?
He might have been. He might be.
He's played 2 more games than Claypool, I think.
No, I meant per game.
Oh, I would assume so. Yeah. Claypool only has 1 touchdown. I mean, that's a big problem here. Roethlisberger.
Right. That's what he did a lot of last year was score.
I think Roethlisberger is averaging 1 touchdown pass per game. So it's like,
I think he's averaging like 7 yards per catch. Like he's not challenging downfield that much. It's a byproduct of that offensive line, which still hasn't completely recovered to the point where Roethlisberger can operate a normal NFL offense.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. From the Cleveland side, surprisingly bad game from Nick Chubb. Dearness Johnson scored a 10-yard touchdown, but only had 4 carries. Beckham, man, 1 catch. Anything here? I mean, do you feel good about Jarvis Landry? 10 targets, 5 catches, 65 yards. He's 69% rostered. We could pick up Jarvis Landry in some leagues. I don't know. Do you like Landry going forward?
No.
If you need a receiver that can get you 5 catches per game and give you a safe full PPR floor, that's what he is now. I don't see him breaking back to, a huge year like we saw from him before with Baker Mayfield. But I do think he's the better receiver over Odell.
He's Rust Belt Hunter Renfro.
Rust Belt Hunter Renfro. I love it. Chubb only played 55. This bears mentioning. Chubb, 55% of the snaps. Dearness Johnson, 31%. Dearness played more on snaps from 10 yards or closer than Chubb did. It was only one more, but the fact that it was even close to being a split between the two of them makes me nervous about Chubb.
Does that make you think that he's not fully healthy?
Probably that more than it's probably 75% that, 25%. Well, we can't just let Dearness Johnson, die on the vine on the bench.
Sure, but at the end of the day, Chubb had 16 carries and Johnson had 4, and he only played. I mean, he never has played more than 57% of the snaps.
No, Johnson was basically in the Kareem Hunt role. 10 of 12 snaps of 3rd and 4th downs for the Browns.
Okay, all right then. Let's go to San Francisco 33 and Chicago 22.
Believe it or not, Justin Fields needs to be stashed everywhere again.
Not believing it.
There's only one reason I don't believe it. I do think that he has a chance to have a spectacular finish to the year. But Pittsburgh by Baltimore means that you're probably going to have another chance to add him in the next couple of weeks. This is probably not your last chance. You get past that Pittsburgh by Baltimore situation, and with the way, it wasn't just the run. His ball placement on the first touchdown was fantastic, and he had several other throws like that again. I do think he's improving, and you get to the later in the year and you go Detroit, Arizona, Green Bay. We'll see what their defense is like at that point. The Vikings, Seattle, the Giants. I think he could have a good finish to the year.
Mm-hmm. I really think that's the only thing from this game that is worth discussing.
How many people still have Allen Robinson on a fantasy roster?
83% rostered.
He did some nice blocking last week.
Well, look, you'll know by the next time you get a chance to drop him if he's still on the Bears. And if he's still on the Bears, it's time to drop Allen Robinson. Tennessee 34, Indianapolis 31.
Believe it or not, Michael Pittman is a top 20 wide receiver rest of the season.
Feels a little high, just off the cuff. Kind of feels high.
Okay, what if you amend it to top 24?
I would like to leave it at 20.
Could I name 19 other receivers? In non-PPR, I think I could name 19 other receivers. In full PPR, that could be tougher because TY can't stay healthy, unfortunately. And that means, and even when TY was healthy in this game, Pittman was dominating targets. I mean, he was getting end zone target. I think he had 2 end zone targets before he finally caught a touchdown.
This sounds like a yes to me.
It's starting to. That's why I'd be more comfortable saying full-fledged number 2 fantasy wide receiver in full PPR. Yeah, I could see that.
Here's a good one: Brandon Cooks or Michael Pittman.
Okay, I think I'd rather go Pittman.
I think I would too. And we already put Cooks ahead of Woods, so now there's
right.
2 guys off the list.
Yeah. How about? See, I don't think so. I think I'm looking at the top 20 now. I don't think so. I don't think
some names out there.
All right. Kupp, Chase, Hill, Debo, Marquise Brown.
Obviously, none of those guys.
You stop me when you get.
I would not be surprised I think he's in the Marquise Brown class in PPR,
which means that's more about Brown being closer to a middle of the pack number 2 receiver than a top 12 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. DeVonta
and when I find the names, just somebody stop me. Okay, DeVonta Adams, Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Cordell Patterson, Mike Williams, Terry McLaurin, DJ.
I might take him over Mike Williams.
I wouldn't, but okay.
I'm not there yet, but you can kind of see it. He's turning into what Mike Williams was.
Chris Godwin, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson.
I think he's right there with DJ Moore.
He may be ahead of DJ Moore.
And then you've got guys like Christian Kirk and Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders.
Ahead of all those guys.
Sutton.
I don't know if he's ahead of Antonio Brown. I guess if Brown's going to be on the shelf for a while, then yes. But we know that when Brown's healthy, he's pretty good. He's ahead of Emmanuel Sanders.
So that's about 16 or 17. And then behind him, you've got Lockett, Amari Cooper, Diggs, Deontay Johnson, and Keenan Allen, AJ Brown.
AJ Brown is definitely ahead of him.
I think 20. I think we're somewhere 20 to 24. Okay.
What I was trying to weasel my way into changing that, believe it or not.
This was a really good game. Believe it or not, Carson Wentz threw an interception on purpose to avoid the safety.
It kind of looked like he did.
If he
it was
did,
a poor choice.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Save the game for them, for the time being, anyway. Anything else here? I think that's pretty much it. Right? AJ Brown is awesome. Tannehill, nice game. 26 fantasy points. Are you going to start him at the Rams next week and then the Saints? Ooh.
Probably not.
What was that noise?
That's like the that sound effect.
No.
All right, moving on.
He's going to be like a streaming type.
4 games left, guys. Let's do it. 10 minutes. Seattle 31, Jacksonville 7.
Believe it or not, sit all the Jags until James Robinson returns.
I don't know how confident I would be in starting Jamal Agnew or Dan Arnold. Certainly not Arnold. So it really comes down to like Marvin Jones and Agnew. Yeah, I could believe that.
I might feel like the one that gives me pause is Arnold, but against Buffalo, I'm not going to start him. So.
Yeah, I don't know how good Dan Arnold is. Like,
all that matters is that Jacksonville appears to think he's good.
Well, they didn't 2 games ago because he didn't get a ton of work and good numbers in that game. And that was coming off of a game that was about as good as this one, if not a little bit better.
This one for Dan Arnold was 8 catches for 68 yards on 10 targets.
Yeah.
So
Lawrence threw it 54 times. That's like double what he normally gets in terms of passes.
Well, I mean, the one that gives me pause is Carlos Hyde because you can't just turn your back on a starting running back. But I mean, you can against
6
Buffalo.
catches.
He had 6 catches. Remember, this is Seattle. Seattle and the Jets are the 2 teams that just every running back catches a ton of passes against. But yeah, you can't just ignore it. All right, Alex Collins. I mean, look, it was a disappointing game from Collins, but he had 10 carries, and Rashad Penny had 7 carries for 7 yards, and 4 of them came when it was 24-0. So I just don't think Collins is fully healthy, and they're going into a bye. But as of right now, it's pretty clear he's the number 1 guy, right?
He is, but no Seattle running back had even 50% of the snaps. Collins was at 48, played 6 of 9 snaps from 10 yards or closer. Homer continued to work as the third down / passing downs back for the Seahawks. Penny stinks.
New Orleans 36, Tampa Bay 27.
Believe it or not, against the right matchup, Mark Ingram's going to be a good flex again.
I do believe that. That's an easy belief because when there's a matchup where you feel like he's got a chance to play near the goal line or, at least get 10 or 12 carries, you could look at him as a potential fill-in starter.
Like, what about against the Falcons?
I was kind of believing that the Falcons' run defense was improving, but I think they broke down in the second half against Carolina on Sunday. Maybe you look at Ingram as a touchdown or bust type of running back. He played 28% of the snaps first game back in New Orleans. I also thought it was cool that his number is 14, the opposite of Kamara's 41. So like the whole boom zoom thing is they're loving that. They're in the
he's apparently not happy about that. They were talking about on the broadcast.
Oh, about wearing 14, he wasn't happy about that.
Doesn't necessarily love 14.
Yeah, but he couldn't. And whoever had his number, it was
CJ
Gardner Johnson.
Yeah,
has his number, and they're not allowed. He offered to give it to Ingram, but you're not allowed to do it once the season starts. By the way, you know who's playing shortstop? Oh, Astros must have just hit a 2-run homer. You know who's playing shortstop for the Braves tonight?
Alcides Escobar.
Dansby Samsonite. Some people will get that and laugh. New England 27. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anything else from this game?
No.
Tom Brady's ridiculous. And Mike Evans had 2 catches the whole game.
How many fantasy points did he have?
He had 12.8.
12 in PPR.
Yeah, wow.
So now he's at 8 in his last 9 against the Saints.
12 or fewer. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go decimal, then it's 13 or fewer. Amazing. No one got that. That was actually the best joke I made all night. And for those of you who got it, you're welcome. Do you guys get it or no?
No.
No.
All
Come on. 7 minutes, 3 games.
No, 2
Two
games.
games.
I just want to make sure I don't want to gloss over anything here. All right, we're good. New England 27, Chargers 24.
Jacoby Myers caught another 2-point conversion. If he catches 3 2-point conversions on the season, can we give him credit for a touchdown? Believe it or not, none of the tight ends in this game are more than touchdown dependent streamers.
Oh, for sure. I believe that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Heath, I was kind of mad at you this morning. You didn't do anything, but I was trying to set our lineup in the For the People League, and I wanted to drop Jared Cook for Hunter Henry. But I looked at your rankings, and you had Cook ranked ahead of Henry.
Okay.
And I don't even know who won. Cook had 2 for 25, and Henry had 1 for 33. That is almost basically a draw.
It's exactly a draw in full PPR.
It's half PPR. So who wins? Henry?
Half PPR, you've got 3.5 out of Cook and 3.5 out of Henry.
Oh,
that's no scoring.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, there's that.
Actually, you only got 3 out of Cook if it's
It is decimal scoring.
non-decimal
It
scoring.
is decimal scoring.
So exactly 3 point. Why are we talking about this? I don't even care. Never mind.
Well, talk to me about Damian Harris. 23 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. That's 4 straight games with a rushing touchdown, I believe. And yeah, I know he's got a lot of downside. And in full PPR, he doesn't have a huge upside, but he's getting the job done. So how do you value Damian Harris?
Anytime he's got a matchup that is favorable for the run, you can count on the Patriots trying to get him going. And this game was a perfect example. This was an easy start against the Chargers. We just got done talking about the Panthers and how their defense is different with Shaq Thompson on the field. I wonder if that's going to make it a little bit of a tougher start for Damian Harris next week.
Is it fair to say that Damian Harris and Eli Mitchell are doing the Spider-Man meme from across the country at each other?
Kind of.
I feel like Mitchell is on safer ground than Harris.
This is a great one.
I mean, they both.
Yeah. You are one pathetic loser. Sorry, we've got some Jim Carrey.
They both have head coaches who have changed running backs at not a moment's notice, no notice at all. They both have like 17 other running backs available on the roster at some point this year. Neither one of them does much in the passing game. They're both on mediocre teams, but when they're winning, they get a bunch of carries.
Yeah. I think that the Niners are more likely to stick with Mitchell in a bad game script than the Patriots are. Harris.
Didn't Mitchell just have a 9-carry game like 2 games ago?
Yeah, it was against the Cardinals, but that wasn't a bad game script. Because that was a close game.
They just got away from running the football.
That was the Trey Lance start, I'm pretty sure. What did Ben dress as today? We have a question from the chat. Ben, did you get dressed up today?
An Ohio State fan?
Oh, yeah,
Ohio State assistant coach.
That's the worst costume ever. You're still young enough to go trick or treating. You can get out there, buddy. It's only 9:20. All right, last game.
Dave brought Reese's for me. I already did my trick or treating.
What a guy. Okay, last game here. I want to make sure I don't think everything's pretty obvious in this game. Denver 17, Washington 10. It was a thriller in Aspen.
It was not.
Exciting.
I don't know what to make of this game because it was so weird. And only 26 pass attempts for Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know that we necessarily learned very much about the Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton dynamic other than they both had 4 targets, which was the same number that Noah Fant had, and Tim Patrick had 3. Believe it or not, Melvin Gordon is the best Broncos running back rest of season.
Yuck.
Can I say who cares?
Well, but each week they're in
Gordon.
that, do we start them low end number 2 running back discussion? Like we have to care about them every week. They're never must starts and they're never must sits.
And I've routinely been putting Williams ahead of Gordon because Williams is more involved in the pass game, or at least he has been. This week he wasn't. Gordon was. Williams, the more explosive running back. You're always looking for that. But Gordon has been steady for them. Caught a touchdown 2 weeks in a row, ran for a touchdown in this game. and he's played a considerable more amount of snaps than Williams has in at least the last 2 games. I know it was like 57-43, something like that in week 7. And in week 8, it was 51-43 in favor of Gordon. So they're giving him the nod right now. This is the running back that you could trade for on the cheap if you're really desperate for a running back. Someone that might be able to get you 10 fantasy points even in a non-PPR.
Was that a believe it or a not?
I think that means I'm believing.
It's like how much longer throughout
But I don't want to believe it.
is he going to outscore Williams without us believing that? I guess at that point, I guess. But I guess I'd rather have Williams. I feel like there's more upside. If they both stay healthy and keep these roles, it'll probably be Gordon. There was one other thing from this game. Maybe there wasn't. No. Oh, no, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say, believe it or not, next week is Javonte Williams week.
What's the astronaut meme with the gun?
I don't know memes.
Always was.
Sure. Makes sense.
They've got Dallas next week.
What a crap game from Noah Fant. 2 catches for 8 yards. And Albert O came back and had a better game than Noah Fant. 3 catches for 34 yards. So that's, I think.
Adam, do you really believe that Javonte Williams could eventually take over and like be head and shoulders ahead?
No, I don't. But Melvin Gordon's been on the injury report 3 or 4 times this year, I feel. So
if you had to put a percentage on it,
what's the percentage chance that Melvin Gordon gets hurt?
Yeah, that's basically.
Well, I'm asking Azer.
20%. I don't know.
Javonte Williams left this game with an
injury. So you're saying there's a chance?
Stepped on my jaw.
Like he came back, but Williams was hobbled in this game and left right before Gordon scored the touchdown.
Oh, so that was the reason why. Oh, that was why Melvin Gordon had a better game.
The other touchdown.
I think Williams came back in there.
All righty then. I was trying to work in let me show you something. I couldn't figure anything out. Okay, I'm going to explain the joke to you now. The starting shortstop for the Braves is Dansby Swanson. I called him Dansby Samsonite because the whole briefcase bit. Have a great night, everybody, or a great day, depending on when you're listening. Hope week 8 went well for you. That in the movie, Dave, in Dumb and Dumber, he can't remember the girl's name. It's Swanson. So he looks at the briefcase and he said, "Oh, maybe it's on the briefcase." He looks at the briefcase. Samsonite. I was
with the title on the podcast. You might just want to use Dumb and Dumber for all your jokes.
Okay, I'll see you later, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Happy Halloween.